Mhm. Hello. Hello, and thank you for joining our live session today. Today's topic is all about most competitive truck drivers' pay. So if you're joining this live today, we're going to be talking about the different types of pay structures for company drivers, for truck drivers in particular. So we're going to go for the most beneficial pay versus to the worst pay structures for company drivers. All right. So again, today's session. Thank you all for joining us here today. Again, today's session is all about the pay for truck drivers. So we're going to talk about different types of pay structures. We're going to talk about gross pay. We're going to talk about rate per mile. We're going to talk about the hourly pay, and we're going to talk about salary pay. Okay. So let's start off with talking a little bit about the gross pay for truck drivers. Okay. Gross pay is probably the worst possible way that a truck driver can get paid. The reason we say the gross pay structure is the worst pay because I see a lot of ads that pay 25% of gross or 30% of gross or 15% of gross. The reason I don't like the gross pay is because if the national average is $2 per mile and somebody's getting paid 25% of gross, it usually means that they're working for 50 cents per mile. Now, I should not be hearing about 50 cents per mile. In 2024, truck drivers should be making at the bare minimum probably 60 to 65 cents per mile. So anybody working on gross pay as a truck driver, okay, and I see these ads all the time. I see truck drivers getting paid gross pay 25%. Some drivers, I actually had a couple of consultations, and some drivers are getting paid 30%. Now, 30%, I would say, is still, a bad deal for truck drivers. I would not allow any one of my friends that work as truck drivers, I would not give them the advice you should work on a gross system of 30%, because if the national average is $2 per mile and you're working on 30% gross, well, you're making 60 cents per mile. But there's going to be a lot of trips that, sometimes you're going to be in California, sometimes you're going to be in Florida, and the rates out of there, they don't pay, they pay $1.20 or $1.30. So at 30 cents per mile, 30% gross earnings, you're only making 40 or 44 cents per mile. And that is a joke. You should not be worried about, the reason why company drivers, are not taking a step forward and being owner operators, because they don't want the risk involved with the market. They should be getting paid per mile, or they should be getting paid a salary. But we'll talk about other structures and what I recommend in our industry. So gross earnings, stay away from it. It really should not, you should not be exercising the gross earnings. Now, if anybody that's on live right now, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them down in the chat below. I really want, for you guys to ask any questions that you have. I'll try to do, to the best of my ability, I'll try to give you as much, information that I know, especially when it comes to salaries and pay. So whether you're in Canada or in the US, we do have a terminal out in Atlanta, Georgia. So we have American drivers. We have drivers here in Canada, and all they do is cross-border work. So we're definitely familiar with the pay structures both in Canada and the US. Hello to everybody. The comments are starting to come in. So heavy truck drivers, hello. Ahmed, hello. James, hello. Tanker drivers, guys, unfortunately, tanker drivers, I'm not well versed in. I do know the van reefer market. I do know the flatbeds. I do know the reefer division. I am not very well versed with the tanker and the pays for tankers. I do know it's a little bit different, and I know that tanker drivers make a little bit more than the van reefer drivers, probably more in line with what flatbed drivers make. Terrell, hello to you too. So guys, any questions while I'm doing this live, you're more than welcome to ask in the comments. Okay, I'll try to answer it as best as I can. Now, the second pay structure. So again, the worst pay structure is the gross earnings. Stay away from that. Okay. The next one, which is number 2, which is probably what our industry is really, known for, is the rate per mile. So a lot of drivers, are getting jobs at 55, 60. I don't think anybody should be working in today's world. Less than 60 cents per mile. We all know the cost of living has gone up significantly over the last 5 or 10 years. There should be no reason why anybody's working under, less than 60 cents per mile. I would say probably 60, 62, 64, 65. 65 cents. I know companies that pay even 70 cents per mile. So there's a lot of companies out there that have really good competitive pay packages. Just make sure you do your research before you entertain a position, that has a really, really high rate per mile. So the rate per mile that we pay right now in Atlanta, Georgia, for example, is 65 cents per mile. And most of the companies that I talk to along the East Coast, maybe not New York, maybe New York has a little bit more. I would say probably their pay packages are a little bit higher. And same thing with Illinois. I see that, in Illinois, the pay packages are probably a little bit higher. And the same thing I see in California. I see that the pay structures there are just a little bit higher. I see jobs at 70 and 72 cents per mile, or sometimes even 74 cents per mile. But again, a lot of your salary gets deducted, in taxes, especially when you're in New York or in California. So, but the gross earnings, yes, I see gross earnings in California and New York, where the pay is probably a little bit higher. Let's go into some of the comments. What options do you have for owner operators if you're leasing on? So again, this session is not really about the lease purchase. Maybe I'll save a couple of minutes towards the end and talk about the lease purchase program. But this is all, this session here is for pay structures for drivers. So company drivers, we'll talk a little bit about owner operators. Owner operators, there is the gross earnings, a big difference between Canada and US. Here in Canada, owner operators and lease operators, they want to get paid per mile. And they don't care about on-road expenses. They don't care about anything. They don't care about the insurance, the plates. The company pays for everything, and we pay owner-operators a rate per mile plus fuel surcharge. So you'll see that a lot. You'll see that in Canada a lot. In the US, it's not so common. So a lot more. It's a lot more common in the US to have the gross earnings and a commission split. So, for example, owner operators in the US, they get paid, I would say 88.12, I would say 85.15, where the owner operator gets to keep 85% and the company keeps 15%. And that's for the dispatch services. But then the owner operator has all of the expenses. He has to pay the insurance, the tolls, the plates. He's got to pay, any on-road expense, the trailer, so a lot of the expenses in the US, everything is on a split commission, 85-15, and the owner operator pays for everything. And here in Canada, everything's in reverse. The company pays for everything, and the owner operator gets, X amount of dollars. So our pay packages right now is $1.55 per mile, plus I think about 14 or 15 cents fuel surcharge. That comes out to close to probably $1.70, and the owner operator doesn't pay for anything except fuel. Okay. So any questions about those pay? I'll answer. I'll try to answer some of the questions that are here. I'm getting my ELD tomorrow, and I'm starting from ground zero. Okay. Hey man, I'm new to the dispatch business. I love your advice. Thank you very much, Vas. I try to the best of my ability to direct people or to give them the advice of what I would do if I was starting out. I always put myself in those shoes, and I try to give my honest opinion. Sometimes, people like my opinion, and others people don't. Sometimes people don't. Next comment, 65 is everywhere in the Midwest right now. Correct. Yes. So 65 is everywhere right now in the Midwest. I do see that, the rates have started to come down a little bit because there's a lot of closures happening right now in our industry. Companies are starting to close down a little bit more. At the end of every month, I usually do a recap video of all the companies that closed down. And I think in August 1st, when I looked back at how many companies closed down, and they're not small companies, they're, I would say that, they have a fleet of 80 trucks, 90 trucks, 100 trucks. These are not little companies that are going under. And as the months go by, it's still getting, it's still pretty bad out there, especially with the national average being $2.05 per mile. Pertaining, so we still got two more to go. We have the hourly pay and the salary pay. I just want to answer a few more, comments. Is it legal as an owner op to lease and run on two different dispatch delivery companies? So here in Canada, no, that's not legal. I don't think any company like ET Transport, for example, would not dispatch somebody that has that works for two different companies. In the US, it might be a little bit more common because owner operators can carry their own insurance, their own authorities, and then it could be dispatched by or operated by ET Transport and another company. So you might get away with it in the US. Here in Canada, you probably won't get away with it. Why don't you ever include the Mack trucks and do truck comparisons? The Mack trucks, I mean, I don't have any, so I really can't give you guys, proper data about Mack trucks. I really can't give you information about Mack trucks because I don't have it, and I don't like to pretend that I have it. So I do have the information on the Volvos, I do have the information on the Cascadias, and I do have owner operators that have the Kenworth T680s in our fleet. So that's really, I don't like to just give information. I really like to back up my information with stats and analytics, which is what I have for the trucks. Is it okay if I'm a company driver getting paid on 1099? So in the US, it is okay to get paid on 1099. In Canada, in the GTA, I've talked to a couple of officers that are trying to crack down on this. There are some teams out there from the labor board that are trying to crack down on the Driver Inc. model here in Canada. They've been trying to crack down on it for the last 7 years. I haven't seen any concrete rules that do not allow it. There aren't any, there aren't anything that has clause to it. So if a company does hire Driver Inc. Here in Canada, there's really not much that anybody can do about it. And in the US, from what I understand, it's the same, that we can hire drivers that are on 1099. Next comment. Did you guys move here in the US? Did you guys move here in USA and are out of Atlanta? So yes, it's been over a year right now that we have our terminal in Atlanta, Georgia, and we are running almost, I think it's 8 or 9 power units in the US. Our goal is by the end of 2024 to have about 15 power units in the US. We now have no hope get better. Okay. Do you have reefer division? Yes, we do. Both in Canada and the US, we have a reefer division. So we have vans, reefers, and flatbeds. For a single carrier owner operator besides OTR and RTS for factoring, do you recommend small factoring company for small carrier? So I've had some really good success with a company called eCapital. I think they're the largest factoring company here in Canada and the 4th largest in the US. Anybody who I have recommended to them, and I don't get paid from them in any way, shape, or form, I have, the people who I've recommended to them, they're extremely happy. Same thing with OTR. The guys at OTR, they are amazing. I don't deal much with RTS. I only know guys, from OTR and eCapital, and both of them that I've recommended to people that I consult have been extremely happy with their service. I saw my first ET Semi a few days ago in Southern Virginia, but wasn't able to talk with the driver. Truck was clean. So thank you so much. I mean, yes, we really do only have, I would say, probably 100, 115 power units right now on the road. So, it's all over Canada and the US. So the likelihood of you running into one of them, not so likely, but obviously it happens. But I'm glad it was a clean truck. We do pride ourselves with equipment, with the latest equipment. We've received our 2025 Cascadias, and we are doing a video right now on a full, I actually filmed it earlier today, on the full, I would say the 2025 model, the pluses, the minuses, the fuel consumption, everything you need to know about that Freightliner Cascadia. All right. Hi, Ronan. Do you hire from California? So unfortunately, our U.S. fleet, so this is a Facebook comment, our U.S. fleet does not hire from California. We are primarily in Atlanta, Georgia, and we will recruit from, Georgia, from Alabama, from Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. We would recruit from California. It's a little bit tough. But there are a lot of companies hiring in California. Thanks a lot for you doing the live. Not a problem. What's the average rate per mile for company drivers, reefer division in Canada, solo? Currently, the drivers in Canada get paid 65 cents per mile. And when they're doing reefers, it's an extra 2 cents on a reefer load. So 67 cents per mile is what we have here in Canada. Thanks for the video. How a Canadian carrier can haul inside the USA? What do we need? So a Canadian carrier cannot haul in the US. That is illegal, and you get yourself banned from the US. What you need to do is you need to open up a company in the US with its own MCs, its own authorities, a US company. You need to hire US drivers and you need to have US trucks. So, for example, our Canadian fleet cannot go into the US and pick up anything from US to US. Only our US fleet, which is ET Motor Freight, can pick up freight in the US and can go take, loads from Georgia going to Illinois. It's got to be a US driver and has to be a part of the US division. Okay, so very big difference. And no, you cannot do it. If you are a Canadian, if you are breaking the law. You can get banned. Well, you will get banned from the US if anybody finds out, and it's really not a risk that anybody should take. Ryan Donan, love your videos. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. How do you hire from Edmonton as a flatbed? So we have hired in the past from the West Coast in Canada. It all depends on how long you're able to stay on the road for at a time. Okay, so if you need to be home every single week, unfortunately, that doesn't work. But if you need to be home every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, then we have hired from the West Coast in Canada for our Canadian fleet. All right, let's get into some more questions. Is it true Brampton trucking companies hire inexperienced drivers and don't pay anything? I heard new drivers working. Okay, so with every city, especially in Brampton, you have the good and you have the bad. Same thing here in Concord, where we are located. You have the good and you have the bad. You can't say that all companies in Brampton are bad. That's not true. I know, some really good companies out of Brampton. I know that our future building that we're going to be moving into, probably we purchased our land on Major Mackenzie and Highway 50, and that falls on the Vaughan-Brampton border, but the location is considered Brampton. So, I guess ET Transport eventually will be a Brampton trucking company. But again, not all companies are bad that are located in a certain geographical area. And the same thing goes out for, Illinois. Illinois has a horrible reputation in the trucking industry, but not all trucking companies that are based out of Illinois are bad. Hey, sir, I wanted to know how much profit can we make from a reefer or semi in USA or Canada if it runs something around 13,000 miles. So for that, I would have to probably point you in the direction of our pay comparison videos. So on our channel, we do have, pay comparison videos, and I do talk a lot about, what happens if you run 11,000 miles, if you run 12,000 miles running a reefer. The national average for reefers right now are about $2.45 per mile. So they are more profitable than the van division. Obviously, you have more expense on you. You're running heavier loads. Your fuel consumption will not be 8.5 or 9 miles per gallon. You're probably looking closer to about 7.8, 7.9 miles per gallon. So you're spending more money on fuel, and you're also spending more money on your fuel consumption and your reefer fuel. All right. Next question. Hey, Ronan, the owner-operator per mile rate, $1.70 per mile, is that USD or Canadian? So that is Canadian. So Canadian drivers get paid Canadian dollars. US drivers get US dollars. Make sure you are a member of our channel if you're a subscriber to the channel, because one of the videos that I'm doing is the pay comparison between a Canadian driver and US drivers. I get this all the time. And I thought it would be a great idea to do a video on the difference in pay based out of Canada and a Canadian driver and the US driver running the exact same miles. So make sure you're a subscriber to our channel. Some more comments. Thank you for all the help and advice you give away. Hope things keep going well for you. So thank you. Obviously the last, I would say probably a year has not been, an easy year. It's definitely been a tough year. And I, appreciate you. But, I really hope that, the trucking industry will come a little bit better. We have seen some signs of life, probably end of the month, and then all of a sudden it goes right back down on the, once the month end. There's a whole excitement on month end and a lot of shipments coming out, and then it dies right back down on the, once the month end is finished. But I really hope that, over election years are usually known to be bad years for trucking. They're usually not the greatest years. That's, the formula that happened in 2020. Same thing happened in 2016, and 2024 is definitely one of those years, the election years that are really, are not the greatest years for trucking. That's for sure. Are you looking for cross-border company drivers at the moment? Currently, right now, there is probably about a 2-month waiting list to get into ET Transport as a truck driver in Canada. I know that in the US, there are a couple positions open out of our Atlanta, Georgia terminal. But in Canada, I think there's probably about a 2-month waiting list right now. So I would highly recommend that if you ever want to work for ET in Canada, get a hold of our recruiters. Make sure you pass the initial phase of the recruiting, and then once a position becomes available, they can definitely reach out to you. Hey Ronan, I got a question. If you can help my older brother, a British and experienced truck driver, how can he come here? So the only way that he can come here is through the LMIA programs the LMIA programs through the there are some companies that have it. If you want, Yasir, you can send me a private email and I'll see if I can direct you in the right direction about your brother. We have 10 trucks in the US, and can you use Call GC Truck Lines will help you move freight. So yeah, Michael Branch, 10 trucks in the US. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more in detail on what you are experiencing. Thank you for so much. Because of your videos, I was able to sell my truck before I lost everything, maybe in the future. Well, I'm really hoping, thank you for the positive feedback, because the whole point of this channel was definitely to help other truck drivers or people that are trying to get into this industry. We created a whole series on how to open up a trucking company in the US. And, that series is, extremely popular, and it helps guide people. I know that we've made mistakes along the way when we opened up in Atlanta, Georgia. And I said, why not document this journey for anybody out there that is looking to, that is looking to open up a trucking company. But definitely, it has helped a lot, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the playlist of opening up the trucking company in the US. So is it possible to be an owner operator in a tank industry? I have no idea. I don't know anything about the tank industry. I think something around $8,000 to $13,000 if we look at those pay comparison videos. By the way, I learned everything from you about trucking. Love, thanks a lot. No problem, RIO. Like I said, you're very welcome, and I really try to put out a lot of good content out there that people can help benefit. So I, the son of a truck driver, I've seen the highs, I've seen the lows, I've seen my father lose it all, I've seen somebody withhold his pay, I've seen somebody withhold, thousands and tens of thousands of dollars from my father, as a kid growing up, and I remember what it was like, and I remember that we lost everything. So I really wanted to step into this industry to make a change, because there was a lot of bad happening even 20, 25 years ago and 30 years ago. And there's definitely, our industry has gotten a lot worse. And I think that with these channels, we can help create awareness and make this a much better space for everybody. Let's go into one more comment. And wow, I feel like we went off topic. So I'm going to go into a couple of more comments, and then I'll continue with the videos on the pay structures. Hi, Ronan. I have a question. I'm currently dealing with a preventative accident on my record, and I'm trying to figure out how to move on to the next company. So with an accident on your record, I really think that you need a detailed explanation of what happened in that accident, and hopefully when you are applying to your next position, that you'll have the chance to be able to explain what happened. Hello, sir. How are you? Any advice for newbie graduates, Class A with hazmat? No, I do not have any advice for new ones, except, welcome to our industry. It is a tough place to be in right now. Hopefully you'll, when you find your first job, it'll probably be with a co-driver. You'll be driving teams. And I think that you should take the time in learning our industry and make sure you fall on a really, really good driver trainer that will teach you the ropes in our industry. What factoring services do you recommend, or which agency does ET use? So we do not use a factoring company. I just talked about this earlier. I would recommend OTR, and I would recommend eCapital. Hey, Roman, my name is Ronin, Ronen. Any advice for new freight brokers? I'm 24 and have been studying the industry for the past 2 years. So freight brokerage is extremely hard these days. I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Hey, Ronan, thanks for all you do. Willing to share your knowledge. Could you work with an owner operator who owns their own truck, living in Wisconsin, working in the U.S. division to run U.S. Yes, I could do it. So Gary, if you can send me an email to sponsorship@ettransport.ca. And I will connect with you and our recruiters. I'll introduce you to the recruiters here. But yes, we should be able to dispatch you as long as you're operated by ET Motor Freight. We should be able to do something. How many units maximum can be run out by DAT1 or truck stop load? How many units maximum can be run? I don't know. I have no idea. Do you have owner ops in the system? So yes, we do have owner operators in our system. Fixed week salary, you offer that? No, we don't have a fixed weekly salary. Jesus, hi Ronan, happy to be here. Amazing content. Jesus is a new member, guys. For those of you that are interested in becoming members, okay, so we usually do this once a week where we go into a live team session. All right. And this team session, what it does is it gives you the ability to ask me any questions in a team setting where we talk, and other members are there that are currently in the middle of either opening up their own trucking company, or they're buying their first truck, or they are needing help with, with their positions and with the jobs, and they are part of the mentorship session. So you get to ask me any questions that you want in the mentorship sessions. It is currently only offered on the YouTube platform. And we have, I think, probably over 75 or 80 people there. We currently do the live sessions for members only every Thursday at lunchtime, and it's not done on a live setting like this. It's done on a private Teams setting because it's more of questions and answers, and that those sessions are not recorded, and it really helps people that are in our industry that are in the process either of doing the dispatch course, or they're in the process of doing the dispatch course, or they're in the process of opening up their own company and they need guidance to open up that company. So if you are interested, guys, in the mentorship sessions and in the YouTube memberships, if you click on ET Mentee, so that's the mentorship sessions, you'll have access to our previous mentorship sessions and moving forward the mentorship sessions. Okay, so back to the reason why we did this live is we were talking about the pay structures for company drivers, the best pay structure to the worst pay structure. And we started out with the worst. And we mentioned that the worst pay structure is the gross earnings. Why is that the worst pay structure? Because you can be working easily for under 50 cents per mile if you're taking 25% of gross and 30% of gross. The reason for that is because the national average today is $2.05 per mile. If you're getting paid 25% of gross earnings, which the national average is $2 per mile or $2.05, you're probably working for about 51 or 52 cents. There's no need for you to work for that low rates. Some drivers, I get a lot of questions around this gross earnings, and I hate the system. I think it's the worst system for company drivers. The next worst system, okay, so by far the worst is the gross earnings. The better pay package would be the rate per mile, which is currently at 65 cents per mile. Company drivers should not be working less than 65 cents per mile. The third best, okay, and this is what I try to recommend to people, okay, is try to find yourself a job that is under hourly pay, especially if you are on local or regional. So local drivers, regional drivers should be working on hourly pay. You would totally benefit from it. You know what you're making per hour. Doesn't matter if you have a waiting time, layover, if you are, in between loads, if you're waiting for, you delivered a load and now you're waiting for a dispatch, you are clocking in at every hour for the hours that you're in that truck. You would be a very happy person. And those are the kind of jobs that you need to look for. And then by far the best job that you can find yourself, which would be at my number one, is the salary pay for company drivers. Okay. So whether you're local or you're long distance, this is starting to become more and more popular here in Canada, especially in the long haul, getting paid salary. So I'm starting to see these jobs more and more frequently where a company pays the long haul driver $85,000 a year, and it covers up to 11,000 miles, yada, yada, yada. And, but the but the driver gets paid a salary, okay, for his work. So this is by far the best job to look out for. This is what you're probably looking for. That is the jackpot in our industry. That's what you really want to find yourself, is that salary pay, whether you're local, if you're regional, or if you're long haul. If you can find yourself that salary pay, okay, you would be extremely happy, because the pay, we all want comfort and we all want stability in our lives, and that salary pay is going to give you that comfort and the stability. Okay, so just to recap: gross earnings, number one; the rate per mile would be number two; the hourly pay would be number three; and the best pay structure out there would be salary pay. Okay, so if we reverse it from best to worst, okay, so the best pay package is the salary, the next best would be hourly pay, the one after that would be the rate per mile, and the worst pay structure out there would be gross earnings. Does anybody have any questions on the pay? Hey, Ronan, happy to be here. Okay, let's see. Are you thinking of going to heavy haul trucking, like hauling windmills? No, we are very comfortable with what we're doing, and I don't think we'll be providing any other services out there. We currently do the van, the reefer, and we have the Conestoga roll tights. We're very happy with those. I mean, that can a company which has 50 units can be dependent on 3 to 4 load boards? Yes, a company with 50 power units can be dependent on one load board, which is DAT. And we have here LoadLink in Canada. Those are the load boards that we use exclusively. So those 2 load boards, and there's more than enough work out there. Thanks for your answers, Ronan. Also meant to add, not a problem. What would you prefer on a APU, battery or diesel powered, and why? So Gary, that's a really, really good question about battery or diesel APU units, and it all depends on how long you're in the truck for. So if you're a driver that resets at home, I would definitely go with the battery pack APU unit. The diesel would be a complete waste of money. If you're on the road for more than 7 days at a time, then I would 100% go with the diesel APU unit. And the reason for that is because when a driver is resetting on the road, you really drain the batteries out. So for example, if you are resetting at home and you're out on the road for X amount of days, 4 or 5 days, and you're taking the night off, or when you're finished your shift, you have about 10 to 12 hours that your truck is off. Those batteries in a battery pack APU are usually good for 8 hours when they're brand new, and then it'll go down to 7 and 6 as the batteries start wearing out. And then that truck turns on for about 2 or 3 hours, depending on how new those batteries are. So if you're doing a reset at home, definitely battery pack APU. I could do a whole video just on battery versus diesel APU units. But I don't think you want me to get into all that over here. So if you're doing your reset at home, definitely battery pack. If you're doing your reset on the road, definitely a diesel one. Advice for expanding into asset-based freight brokerage: would you get investors or pay it with your own cash? Expanding into an asset-based brokerage, freight brokerage. So, I mean, it's always best to work with your own cash, for sure, if you can afford it. If you cannot, then obviously you would have to, you would get investors and pay them interest on their money. There is a comment here in French. I'm really sorry. I mean, even though I am Canadian, I don't speak French. So we're going to move on to the next one. Hey, Ronan, per your website, I only see openings in AZ. So class 1 AZ in Canada, nothing in Georgia. So if you go into the ET Motor Freight website, or if you go to ET Transport, as you fill out the form, the last column, I guess, on the form would ask you which location do you want to work for, and that's when you put either Concord, Atlanta, or Moncton, New Brunswick. So any one of our websites, even if you're from Atlanta, you can definitely fill it out and indicate that you're from Atlanta. Does your company give medical insurance and some pension plans? So no, we do not have. We do have the medical coverage in Canada, which is the dental and eye, and that's the top up that drivers can either get for their family or a single plan. Salary pay is king. I agree with that. Is your company hiring in Atlanta? Yes, we're hiring in Atlanta. Why don't I'll just put the link below, so you guys, if anybody's having a hard time, let me just go into ettransport.ca. We'll go to careers and we'll go to company drivers. All right, so I'll just put it here. Okay. So you guys can there's the link on if you guys want to apply here. Just when you're filling out the form, make sure you put that, when it says location applying for, just put Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever you want to apply for. Does any company salary is king? Is your company hiring in Atlanta? Yes. Okay, it's 55 cents per mile on all miles loaded and empty good package. So it depends. White Lion Transportation, it depends where you're located. So if you're in Canada, that is a very low pay package. If you are in the US, that's a very low pay package. So I do not recommend for any company driver to work for less than 65 cents per mile in today's market. How are the load prices right now? So the load prices right now are horrible. Is it worth buying your own rig now since they are so cheap? So there is, I think that it's really good to buy your own rig right now because I don't think that the trucks are going to get any cheaper. But the freight rates, even though they're low, you can still be profitable at $2.05 per mile. I highly recommend for people to learn to dispatch themselves. And the reason for that is because I truly believe that you can open up your own authorities and you can open up your own authorities and dispatch yourself. For those of you that are asking, how do you start this? I highly recommend that you take a dispatch course. Okay, so that would be really the best place to start is by taking a dispatch course. And when you take this course, you're going to learn a lot of stuff about the industry, a lot of the paperwork that's needed. You're going to learn how to book your own freight. You're going to look. You're going to understand the cost per mile, which is extremely important. Okay, understanding that cost per mile and the rate per mile. I put the link below here in the chat for you guys. It's truckingacademy.us, or you can get it on our YouTube platform. You should be able to take the course. And the course is not just about, it's not just a dispatch course. It's going to give you a clear indication on whether or not you want to do something like this or not, if the rates per mile make sense. But at the end of the day, you're trying to be profitable when the freight rates are low. So if you can be profitable in today's world with today's freight rates, which is what I teach through this dispatch course, and it's what I teach through the mentorship sessions, right? If you can learn to be profitable in today's world, it's only going to get better from here. I mean, you have the advantage. You can buy extremely cheap trucks right now. You have the advantage because you can use my knowledge. You have more than enough knowledge here, plus the mentorship sessions. The feedback that I'm getting is that it's an unbelievable program because you get to ask me in a team setting whatever questions you have throughout the week, and then you can ask me once a week by joining live for those sessions. So I highly recommend that. So back to the question, is now a good time to buy a truck? Absolutely. It's never been better. Okay. All right. Salary isn't the great. So let's get some Facebook questions here. Hey, Ronan, this 70-year-old with 54 years is still learning a lot from you. Appreciate all you do for this industry. Thank you very much, Blaise Alberts. I really appreciate the positive feedback. Salary isn't that great. So there are pluses and minuses for salaries. Now, the reason I think salaries are so good is because of the stability in life. Let's go into another question. 85K a year salary. One simple medical bill is 150K. Where's the medical insurance? So yes, I mean with any one of these pay packages, obviously there's pros and there's cons. But you're right. I mean, 85K a year, depending on where you live. I mean, here in the GTA and the Greater Toronto area, I mean, we're talking about townhouses that are 2,000 square feet or 1,800 square feet. I mean, the price of a townhouse here in the GTA, we're talking about 1.2, 1.1, 1.2 million dollars. I mean, you can't do anything today with $85,000 a year. The cost of living has gone up so much over the last 5 or 6 years that you're right. A truck driver's salary is not enough for the cost of living that has gone up, and that's another big problem that I have in our industry is that the value of a truck driver has significantly decreased over the last 10 years. So I totally feel for all of us. I mean, we're all in this industry. Ronan, how you, the owner operator, have to pay for insurance and the license plate? Ronan, how you, the owner operator? Okay, so if you're in Canada, the company pays for your insurance and for your plates. If you're in the US, most pay packages, the company pays for your insurance and for your plates. Okay. Sorry, if you're in the US, you pay by yourself the insurance and the plates. That's what I see. Watching from Nigeria, hello to Nigeria. How does APF work? APF, no idea what that is. Okay, thank you for answering my APU question. In out 2 to 4 months. Oh, you're out 2 to 4 months. So if you're out, Gary, if you're out 2 to 4 months, you should definitely be getting a diesel APU unit. I actually hear really good things about a company called Green APU. Maybe you should check them out. Cruising with Chad. Hey, Ronan, when is the next mentorship session for the dispatch course? So our mentorship sessions is every single Thursday. So if you are, if you'd like to join, please, guys, just join. I put the link to join. Let me just try that one more time. I'll put the link to join our mentorship sessions. Maybe I can't find it right now. Where is it? Amazing. Why is it that every time you need something, you can never find it? But let's go into our mentorship sessions. I'll try to put the link below to sign up to our mentorship sessions. Copy and paste. Here we go. Okay, so I just put the link below for you to be able to apply to the mentorship sessions, guys. So there's the dispatch course and there's the mentee. If you're in the mentee, then you can join every Thursday approximately at lunchtime. You can, join. It's a 1-hour session with me, and you can ask me all the questions that you guys have in a Teams meeting. Okay. Now, what's great about these sessions is that there are other people there that are in your industry and other owner operators that are trying to open up their own company and dispatching themselves. And there's a lot of feed between, between the members. So, they connect over there. Imagine being able to be connected to 15 or 20 other people that are trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. It's very helpful. And, you can kind of, you can ask somebody who's just done it for their process and what they've done and what they would do differently. Is leasing a truck the same as leasing a car? No, I would say it's completely different. But I don't want to get into leasing so much over here. There are full, I've done full videos on leasing and, when you should do the lease purchase program, when you should not do the lease purchase program. Hi, Ronan. I am investigating a MELT training program in British Columbia starting in early 2005. $18,000 a reasonable tuition for training on a manual transmission. $18,000, are you nuts? No. So I don't think that you should be paying more than $8,000 or $9,000 as the fees right now for, to get your Class 1 license. So we do have some drivers in the East Coast in Moncton that are going through the same thing, and they're paying about $8,000 or $9,000. So I think $18,000 is outrageous. Do you see the freight market rates improving? Is the worst behind us? So I don't know if the worst is behind us. I definitely see a lot of companies closing down, and eventually it's got to pick up. So if it is, at what point is the lowest point? I don't think freight rates can go any lower than they already have. I think the companies that are going out of business are going to be going out of business within the next 2 or 3 months, and hopefully the market will correct itself by November will definitely be a huge month, especially because of the U.S. and the elections. So I think that would be a really good. To get these elections behind us would be really good. What's a good average for a 2-year driver if you're going annually? So I think that you should be able to attract some talent at $80,000, $85,000 in Canada, and in the US probably same thing. Next question. I'm located in New York City, but how is trucking in Texas? So I think that trucking in Texas is actually really good. Texas is a booming state right now. Same thing with Tennessee. Actually, is a really good state right now. So I see that there are in Texas, it is a good state, and I think you do just fine over there. Are dry van rates okay right now, or are they really bad? So dry van rates are really bad. You live in California, so it'd be expensive starting an owner operator here. Yes. I consulted somebody with 25 power units in California, and I must say, when I did the analysis for them, it's probably the worst state to open up a trucking company in the US. A lot of it has to do because of the labor laws. A lot of it has to do because of the payroll taxes that you're paying drivers there. I think your WSIB, or your what is it called, the workers' comp, is really expensive over there. But in every one of the tests that I did, California was by far the worst state to open up a trucking company in. Next comment. The school I am investigating has partnership with some reputable carriers that pay by the hour. Sure. I mean, listen, if you're happy paying $18,000, then go ahead, pay for the MELT program. And I think that, I think you're overpaying by far. But if they are guaranteeing you the job, just make sure you talk to other people that did get the job, and just make sure that you are 100% sure that they will give you the job. Hey, Ronan, can you tell why the market out of Atlanta is so slow right now? I got 3 trucks stuck there right now. So the Atlanta market, I mean, it's a really tricky market, and you need to know how to play with it. I mean, you cannot take a load going into Atlanta that's paying you less than $3 per mile. Maybe $2.80 would be the borderline. And then coming out of Atlanta, you're probably billing at around $1.30 or $1.40 per mile. So on average, you should be getting probably over $2 per mile. Again, you need to hit that $2.05 per mile. If you're doing more than $2.05 per mile, then you are doing better than the national average. Right now, I mean, you should be able to book probably $2.80 per mile going down to Atlanta, and then coming out of Atlanta, you're probably looking at about $1.30, $1.40, $1.50, depending on how lucky you are. So yes, the Atlanta market is extremely, a tough market. But if you know the formulas, then you won't get stranded in Atlanta. You'll understand that you're not allowed to take a load going to Atlanta for less than $2.80 per mile. Is there a hybrid APU? I have no idea if there is a hybrid APU. If you find one, please let me know. I'd love to do a research analysis on a hybrid APU unit. Hello there from Nairobi, Kenya. Hello to you too. All right, guys. So I think we are just about to wrap up this session. So guys, we're just going to recap. When it comes to the hourly rates, when it comes to the pay rates for drivers, it is starting to get harder and harder in the US. Okay, so what do I mean by that? There's more and more, as companies are closing down, there are more and more drivers out there. Okay, so the market for truck drivers right now is a little bit tougher than it was 2 years ago, and definitely 3 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago when the market was hot, people were paying 80 cents, even 80, 85 cents per mile for truck drivers. Right now, the rates have come down, and the more bankruptcies there are, the more the rates are going to start going down for truck drivers. Okay. So there's one comment here. What's a good dispatcher to hire? So to hire dispatchers, I mean, you really need an experienced dispatcher will run you about $85,000 annually to hire somebody that's experienced, probably with 3-4 years under their belt. To hire a dispatcher, I mean, through the course, I mean, you're definitely going to see that the value of a dispatcher, for those that want to dispatch themselves, I mean, you really can dispatch yourself if you're an owner operator, or if you're thinking, of becoming an entrepreneur, like I was, for example. I was 21 when I started ET Transport. Who the hell would have known? But I was 21 years old, and I never had a Class 1 license, and I still don't until today. So is it possible to open up a trucking company? Absolutely. And I am living proof, that it is. Back in 2006, I mean, the market was also not the greatest, but I entered the market. I had 2 power units, then 4 power units, and then I worked hard and dispatched hard, and I definitely learned the ins and outs. And how did I learn? Like I tell everybody else, guys, the dispatch course, whether it's mine or somebody else's, that is a great entrance into the market to see if you like it, if you don't like it. I mean, I love the numbers. For me, I can pull up Excel sheets from 2005 and 6 when I just got into the industry, and I did, hundreds of different scenarios of my break-even point and how much I have to bill and how many loads I have to do and how many miles does a driver have to do. I mean, I love the number side of it. And, if any one of you, want me to go into that, I could definitely go into that into detail in my private sessions with my members, I can definitely do that. I'll pull up, Excel sheets, and we can go through multiple scenarios of how to be profitable, while dispatching yourself, or while, opening up your own authorities, your own insurance, and finding loads for yourself. And again, the secret is to keep your rate per mile, your break-even point, to keep that as low as possible. So right now, I mean, if you're buying a $40,000 truck, I mean, that $40,000 truck today that you can buy, this 3-year-old piece of equipment, I mean, if we reverse 2 years, that same truck would have probably been about $90,000 or $100,000. That's how much the used market has fallen, right? So I really think that this is a great time. For those of you that are interested, I mean, in the dispatch course or the mentorship sessions, you can find it on our YouTube channel. I could probably put it down here below. Okay. So hello, Ronan from Nova Scotia. Ivan, hello to you too. He's on Facebook Live right now. Ivan, I want you to know that the end of the month, in September, I think 11th, I'm scheduled to go into Moncton, New Brunswick. So if anybody is out of Moncton, New Brunswick, and would like to see me, I'd be more than happy to see anybody, any one of my fans that are there, whether you're a small fleet owner, a fleet owner, or if you are a driver, an owner operator, I'll be there. I need to do some videos on our new building that we are constructing. So we finally put in the foundation for our terminal in Moncton, New Brunswick. I'll be heading there for 3 days. I think I'm going to be there the 11th, 12th, and 13th, and I'd love to meet as many people as possible. So if anybody wants to meet me live in person in Moncton, New Brunswick, then I am scheduled to be there. So Ivan, hopefully maybe I'll get to meet you there. Any other comments over here on Facebook? No. What else do we got? All right, guys. So if there's no other comments or questions, the rates back then. How are the rates back then? The rates back then in 2005, or the rates back then in 2000 and back in 2006, the rates were, I think, about $1.60, $1.65, and I think the break-even point was about $1.20 or $1.25 back in the day. So yeah, there was, and I would say right now it's, you're still working on a 40% margin. I mean, if you can learn to run your own truck at $1.65 or $1.75 per mile with your insurance, with your insurance and the truck and the trailer, which I can teach you to do that, then even at $2.05 per mile, you would be profitable. Okay. Hello from Russia. What do you think about packages for truck drivers who are pulling container chassis? Hello to you too from Russia. The problem is that I'm not well versed with chassis and pay packages for chassis, to tell you the truth. I only specialize in the dry van market, the reefer market, and the flatbed market. If anybody has any questions about those three markets, I'd be more than happy to answer. But unfortunately, I'm not well versed with chassis and containers. Is it worth buying your trailer or renting? Also a reefer or dry van? So great question. Buying a trailer right now or renting, definitely buy. The reason for that is because right now you're able to buy at an all-time low. So brand new trailers, for example, are about $50,000 or $52,000. A 3-year-old trailer, you could probably find yourself at about $20,000, which means that it lost more than 50% of its value. Okay, that is unheard of in our industry. There's an abundance of trailers. There's absolutely no reason for you to rent a trailer right now. If you are getting into specialized equipment like flatbeds and you need to rent a flatbed, then I would say, yeah, okay, if you're just entering the market and you want to test it out and see if you'll be profitable in the flatbed division and you want to rent a flatbed, then yes. But if you're looking for a dry van and if you're an owner operator and you are the driver, or you have a small fleet, stay away from the leasing companies. Just go and buy yourself a trailer. Okay. How much does it cost insurance, the DOT, when the DOT is out? Okay, so insurance question, guys. So for those of you that need to insure themselves, I have had horrible experiences with insurance companies in the US, and I've had some horrible experiences in Canada. So what I created was a list of insurance brokers. Let me just pull it up and send it to everybody. I will send a document here. So what I've done is I've created a insurance brokers list. Okay. So there are 4 brokers here in the US, and there are 2 brokers out in Canada. I have used every single one of these brokers. I've asked every single one of them for a quote. So I put together just a list of my 4 brokers that I used in the US and the 2 Canadian brokers. One of the brokers there, I've literally been with her for 15 years. She is phenomenal. And then the second broker I've been there with for probably about 7 years, also really, really good. So I would not give you guys anything that I didn't use myself, or the service that I've used myself. And these guys are all the 4 in the US. I used to get my insurance in Atlanta, Georgia. And they are all really, really good brokers that I've used. And I always like to make people compete for my business. I never just go with one person. I highly recommend you guys all do the same. Is there such a thing as a one size fits all type of trailer, like flatbed drive-in? One size fits all? No. There are different markets. The drive-in market, the reefer market, and the flatbed market are 3 different markets. I would say the reefer is probably the most versatile because you can do drive-in work and you can do reefer work. Drugging industry, it's killing the industry. So the reefer probably is most versatile. The dry vans, obviously, you'll have most of the stuff that are being shipped is in dry vans. So dry vans is the number one service, and then flatbeds is it's definitely seasonal. Flatbeds is a tough market. The reefer is also a tough market, but everything is tough right now. But again, even with things being tough and even with freight rates being so low, we can still build a successful company that is profitable even with today's freight rates. And that's what I want to leave you guys with, and let you guys know that you can be profitable even with today's freight market. And if you teach yourself to be profitable in today's market, you will survive any market out there. Okay, so if you're able to survive with the rates being $2.05 per mile, if you're able to survive now, you will be able to survive in any market, because it's as bad as it's gotten. We're probably at the bottom, and we're probably at the lowest. You will not see freight rates go below $2 per mile. You will only see them increasing. And as we see more and more bankruptcies happening, our industry will start correcting itself. How is the trucking in the winter compared to summer? Trucking in the winter sucks. I mean, here in Canada, why? Because your fuel consumption is higher. So your trucks are usually, if our trucks are running at 8.5 miles per gallon, I would say in the winter months, it's probably at 7.5 miles per gallon. I know your course teaches us how to of calculating rates. Can you share what websites or tools to use for owner operators? The websites and tools that you can use for owner operators is an Excel sheet and that's something that I teach in my mentorship sessions, is putting together that Excel sheet that's going to take into account every single one of your expenses. And then we're going to get into at the bottom of that Excel sheet, it's going to say your break-even point. And that's probably the most important thing that you need to know as an owner operator, or as a small fleet owner, or even if you're doing, a lease to purchase program with somebody, you have to know what that break-even point is. Hey, Ronan, do you believe your dispatch course could help an owner operator of an hold on. Do you believe your dispatch course could help an owner operator of an expedited cargo van business? I think it would be, but I wanted to get your honest thoughts. So the course does not talk about cargo vans. The business is the same. The load boards are the same. Booking loads are the same. The insurance is different for sure, but I think that you can still benefit from it. Again, guys, we're talking about $110 US for the course. Will you get your value out of the course? Absolutely, 100%. There's lots of people that end up paying, $500-$600 for courses that they never even complete, or that they never, the course that they don't ever become a dispatcher or getting into our industry. So I've tried to design a course that is, fairly, I would say, a low entry point, but can definitely give you an insight about our industry, can, give you the tools that you need in order to teach you how to run your own trucking company. Are you going to be ready to go, once you finish this $110 course and be like, okay, now I can open up my trucking company and do everything from scratch? Absolutely not. And that's why I designed the mentorship sessions, because with the mentorship sessions, you will be able to, you definitely would be able to, with a mentor, with somebody holding your hand weekly, okay, and that's the secret to this. With somebody holding your hand weekly, that's when you're going to be able to do it, because every week you're going to have more and more questions on how to do this and how to do that and how to book your first load and how to, there's a million questions that you need answers, and you need somebody to hold your hand. So guys, 2 seconds, I just want you all, if you can, I'd like for you guys to hit that thumbs up over there. In the top of this session, there's, thumbs up. Currently, we have 45 thumbs up. If you can put a thumbs up, if you enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate it, because the analytics on the YouTube, the way that the algorithm works is the more thumbs up there are, the more YouTube will push out this content, and the same thing with Facebook. So if you're able to put that thumbs up, just take a minute, of your time to just, put that thumbs up. I personally would really appreciate if you can do that. And yeah, so back to that course, guys. The $110 course will definitely, open your eyes on a lot of things, whether you're a truck driver, an owner operator, or even a lease operator, or an entrepreneur like me that I was. It'll definitely give you an eye opening to our industry, and see if you like it or if you don't like it. And if you do like it, then you continue with the mentorship sessions. I mean, that's really, and again, I do these lives every single week, both for the mentorship and for the live sessions like this, both on Facebook and YouTube. I got to introduce one more, probably the TikTok live stream. But yeah, I'll be doing this every single week, and every week I take a new topic. Just like today, it was, driver pay rates, and hopefully you learned, some of the stuff that I was able to, to share with you guys. And I try to do this every single week. So thank you so much, guys, for the love and support. I really appreciate all of you guys for joining this session, and I'll see you next week in my live. And there are some really, really cool videos coming out, guys, that you should not miss about, topics in our industry. So continue enjoying the content, and I'll continue making the content. And don't forget to comment, subscribe, and to like some of the videos to push them out on the algorithm. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all of you guys joining here today.